is Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, and it's also Shabbos Parshas Shkol. So the Rebbe is going to start off this mimer with the topic of Shkolim, which we also learned. We also had it in last week's parsha, but it's also going to be the extra kriya of this week's parsha. Plus, he's going to connect it to Parshas Vayakhel. It says, "Kisi says Rosh Bnei Yisrael of Kudeyam," that when you count the heads of the Bnei Yisrael to their numbers, this is what they will give. Whoever passes by the numbers, they will give a half a shekel. Simon, it concludes, to atone on your souls. Sorry, the Rebbe asked a question. We didn't understand. Why does it use the word for counting? Does it use the word tisa? That tisa also means from the word raising up. Like it's brought down the Gemara Bava Basra, that he associates tisa, not just with counting, but with raising up. Amar Moshe said before Hashem, Master of the universe, how will the principle of the Eden be raised up? So he told Hashem, answered him by chitisa. So it comes out that tisa means raising up. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted, and that's what Hashem responded to him, that's how it will take place. So he says, shall be pirish, is that pirish, according to this explanation, the chitisa as Rosh Bnei Yisrael, who he saw them as Rosh Bnei Yisrael, that you will count, also means that you will raise up the heads of the Bnei Yisrael. Rebbe asks seemingly the question is, what's the connection between the raising up of the Bnei Yisrael, the Pirush HaPasha, to the simple meaning? We know the pasuk doesn't leave its simple meaning. That when you will count the Bnei Yisrael to their numbers, there's talking about numbers and counting. So what's the connection between raising the Yidden up and the idea of counting? Another question that Rebbe asks on line 13, Gamsar Law, and also we need to understand what it says. When you will count, this is what they will give, a half a shekel. I knew this means in the chisisa, the idea of being raised up is nasai de yitnu, comes about through this is what they will give. So the Rebbe asks further. What's seemingly the connection between the raising of the Bnei Yisrael to the giving of a half a shekel? So there's two things. Before he wanted to know what's the connection between the raising of the Bnei Yisrael with counting. Now he wants to know the raising of the Bnei Yisrael has to do with a half a shekel. Also, when you understand what they said in the Medrash, in the Shalmi, the Zohar, Niskashu Moshe being in Machzah shekel. Moshe had great difficulty in the half a shekel. The Heroah Kadosh Baruch Hu Matbeh Shalesh, and Hashem showed him a fiery coin of a half a shekel. That's why it says Zayit. The Medrash and other Mefarshim always speak about what it says Zeh, like Zeh Keli Van Behu. When it says the word Zeh, this, it means that Hashem pointed it out to him. That's why Zeh Ma'aseh Menoida, Hashem showed him the Menoida. It says Achodesh Hazel Lochem Reish Kadosh, Hashem showed him the Moel Olav. The same thing over here is Zeh Yitnu, means that Hashem showed him a fiery coin. So again, the Rebbe asked, and seemingly, what does this matter for the idea of the count, the fiery coin? What does the fiery coin have to do with counting? Coins, they were counted by the coins, but what's the fiery coin have to do with counting? Also, we need to understand what it says. This is what they will give, a half a shekel, and the pasuk continues to explain Esrim Geira HaShekel, that a shekel is 20 Geira. Since all we have to give is a half a shekel, why does he have to explain how much is an entire shekel? Just go straight to the point. Give a half a shekel. But if you don't know how much, what makes up a half a shekel, So you could have gone straight and said, "V'ima kavana b'zeh b'chadei sheneidah shamach b'tzarek leser losis ki eser geira." If the point is that he wants to tell you that the half that you have to give is 10 geira, so you should have said that directly. He should have said, "Zeh yitnu eser geira." This is what they should give. A half. They should give 10 geira. Why does he say Zeh yitnu machzah shekel? This is what they should give, a half a shekel. Then he has to go ahead and start explaining. So how do I know what a half a shekel is? Well, a whole shekel is 20 geta. So therefore, I know now what a half a shekel is. Just say straight, give 10 geta. Oizbei. Here the Indian explanation doesn't matter. So he's going to explain first one of the questions we mentioned before. Hine Masha Niskasha Moshe. What was Moshe finding difficult of me? In other words, the truth is he didn't actually explicitly say that question earlier. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu having difficulty in identifying what a half a shekel is that Hashem had to show it to him? So for Beramaz, there's a commentary on the Zohar called Ramoshe Zakut, like brought down many Mamorim, that the commentary on the Zohar explains that what was Moshe Rabbeinu's difficulty that Hashem had to show him a fiery point. That's because the Jewish people, their root and source are from a level that's beyond number and count. They're beyond calculation. They're beyond limitations. They cannot be quantified. How can you go ahead and put them in a box and give them a number and a count and so on? They are beyond those limitations. Perhaps that's also why we don't count Yidden, and it could be a bad thing for counting Yidden, because by counting a Yid, you're putting them under the laws and rules of nature. By not counting them, they are beyond nature. So the Rebbe continues on line 7. We could add in the wonder of this matter, this is because the command, kitisa, you will count. Who's it referring to? Who's the person that the tisa is referring to? It was referring to Moshe. Moshe should count the Yid. Para Yisrael, Kvishem, Mitzad Moshe, the Yid, the way they are from Moshe Rabbeinu's perspective, meaning, the way Moshe Rabbeinu includes within him all the Yid. The Kivin Shan Nasi Wa Koil, like we know Rashi says in Chumash, that the Nasi, the leader, is everything and everyone. Ariel Nasi Koila, let's Kulam. So the Nasi, the leader, includes all of them. So the way, from Moshe Rabbeinu's perspective specifically, the way they are part of Moshe Rabbeinu, they are beyond any measure and boundary. That's also the meaning. Kitisa from the word raising up. Why they Moshe? Because the counting is through Moshe. And as the Yidden are from the perspective of the level of Moshe, they are beyond measure and division, etc. So if they're beyond measure and division, so he asks me, if so, how is it possible Moshe should count them? So in addition to what the Ramaz said, how is it possible for them to be counted? Especially, the Rebbe adds, from Moshe's perspective, since Moshe contains all the Yidden, and the way all the Yidden are contained in the level of Moshe, definitely they're beyond measure and boundary, beyond division. So how could it be that Moshe, that from his perspective, all the Yidden are beyond number, how can he count them? So for this, the reply was from Hashem, line 17, concerning this is what Hashem answered him. This is what they will give. As we said before, is something that you can point to. So Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem, you know what aspect of the Yidden can be counted? Only in the revealed aspect of the Yid. that part that you could point to and say, Zeh, Hine Yadua, it's known, yes, by Neshama Shtei Bechinas, and the Neshama, there are two levels. Achas, Shoydish, Makoir, Neshama, Kvishi Lamayla. The root and the source of the Neshama, the way it's above, sometimes it's called the mazel of the Neshama, sometimes it's called the head of the Neshama. Vashni, and the second part of the Neshama, Bechinas, Neshama Mulabesh Beguf, the level, the Neshama that's enclosed in the body. Jehu HaChelik HaNigla, that's the revealed part of the Neshama. HaNikra Zet, that's called Zet. Masim Gam and Pirush Rabbeinu Azok. This also corresponds to the explanation of the Alter Rebbe. Concerning this pasuk, that this is what they will give a half a shekel, machsa shekel she Yisrael noisnim, that the half a shekel that the Yidden give, who inyan koiches hagiluyim shal neshama, the Yidden are giving and elevating and bringing up to Hashem the revealed soul powers of neshama. By days and nimsha b'chinas machza shekel hashniya, through giving the revealed soul powers of neshama, comes down the second half of shekel, that it's awakened and it comes down the root of the neshama. So that's the two halves of the shekel. One half is the part of neshama down here. The other half that we tap into is the hidden part of neshama, the neshama that's above. So in Chassidus Rosh Bnei Yisrael, that's the idea of you will count, but also you will raise the heads of the Bnei Yisrael. Shehu inyan ha'rama lebechinas ha'roish al neshama. It's the idea of raising up to the level of the head of neshama. Shalamaylam didavis chalpus. That's beyond measure and division. How does one do so? Ayidei inyan ha'kabolos oil, through a yid accepting upon himself the yoke of heaven. Through that, one reaches the level of the head of neshama. They raise up their neshama down here to the head of the neshama above. Now the Rebbe is going to connect this with the parsha. So he says, "V'yesh l'kashu zeh mashakosu parsha shavua." We can connect this what it says in the parsha of the week. By Yaakov, Moshe is called Das Bnei Yisrael, and Moshe gathered the entire congregation of the Bnei Yisrael. Bahagdim, and to preface, the Yidden on their own are beyond division, just like we said before that they're beyond number. You are children to Hashem your God. Therefore, just like Hashem himself is a pure unity and he's beyond divisions. So to the Yidden on their own are beyond division and separation. So therefore, there is no need to gather them. There's no need to collect them. There is the idea of a unity that they are all in that state. But that is before the neshama came down here. Line 8, after the neshama descended down here below, after the Jewish people descended down here below, specifically and especially through the sin of the golden calf. So instead of being a unity, now became nasa pizur hanetzoitzes. Now the sparks of the different neshamas scattered. To such a degree that the pasuk says, even if you're scattered, ones will be in the edges of the heavens, meaning all sides, all directions of the globe. Still in all, I will gather them in. So, what has to be following that? Once we are scattered, once we were scattered, down here below, there has to be the ascent and the elevation from below to above. From there, wherever you are scattered to, wherever you're spread out to, Hashem, your God, will gather you. From there, he will take you. Now he goes on and says that's the same idea of Vayakil Moshe. We know that when did Moshe Rabbeinu gather the Yidden to tell them about what this parsha is about, the building of the Mishkan? That was the day after Yom Kippur. The Yom Kippur was the day that was the final atonement for the Chet HaEgel. So it was countering the scattering and the separations and the divisions that took place in the neshamas. Line 12, Vayakel Moshe Gomer. That's what it means that Moshe gathered Shalomachras Yom Kippurim on the morrow of Yom Kippur to Kvar Hoisa Slicha Cheta Egel was already the forgiveness for the sin of the golden calf. In such a way that Hashem said, I have forgiven as you have spoken, as you Moshe Rabbeinu have said. This is the ultimate perfection of forgiveness, in the will and wholeheartedly. It says there were 3 periods when Moshe Rabbeinu was 40 days on Har Sinai. First 40 days he got the luchos. The second 40 days he begged Hashem not to destroy the Jewish people, and the last 40 days is when he got a full-fledged pardon and forgiveness for Klal Yisrael, which culminated with Yom Kippur. Azai, once you had the full atonement, the full forgiveness of Yom Kippur, day after that, Vayakel. Azai Paul Moshe in the Vayakel, then Moshe affected the idea of he gathered that instead of this scattering and division, Paul Vayakel, he caused that should be gathered. She also called it should become a congregation. Is beyond divisions. In addition to this gathering and collecting of the scattered sparks of the neshams from below to above, in the collection and in the gathering, there is also the drawing down from above to below. That's what it says, that immediately, what was the command that was in Parshas Vayakel? That he commanded them on the building of the Mishkan. And what's the Mishkan about? The Mishkan is that they should make a sanctuary and I shall dwell amongst them. What's Mishochanti? I will dwell. That's talking about the Shechina, the Eibusha coming down, from above to below. Shehim Shechlamata, that Moshe Rabbeinu gathered down here below. The pure oneness and unity that's beyond the vision. So there was both directions. Both there was the elevation from below to above, that Moshe Rabbeinu collected all the scattered neshamas that became scattered because of the Chet HaEgel or B'chlal, because they descended into this world. And then, as what was the result of that? The building of the Mishkan, which is drawing down of Hashem's unity to bring unity into this world. The Rebbe goes on more specifically, line 26, even more specifically. Concerning the unity of Vayakel Moshe itself. Before we said that Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that made a collection and a unity from below to above. He collected all the scattered sparks of the Yid. And Hashem's drawing down of the unity came in the Mishkan. Here he's going to say that really both the elevation from below to above, that unity, and also the drawing down from above to below, these are all contained in Vayakel Moshe. How is that so? In the Pasuk Vayakel Moshe is the Medrash. In the Pasuk Vayakel Moshe, it's brought down the Medrash. Amra Kadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. Hashem told Moshe, "Asay lecha kihilos gedolos kulum." Make for yourself great gatherings. Why should you make gatherings? So that the following generations should learn from you, lahakil kilos b'chol Shabbos v'Shabbos, to make gatherings every Shabbos, v'lichnos v'batim midrashos, and to gather in the yeshivas, l'lamed or l'hoyres l'Yisrael the Torah, to teach and direct to the Yid in the words of Torah. Now, Vayakel Moshe, it's right afterwards. It says about Shabbos, and then it goes into Melech Samishkan. So this is the Medrash saying that by Moshe gathering, this would inspire the Yidden as well to gather in the in every Shabbos as well. Now, we're trying to see whereby Moshe Rabbeinu's Vayakil is not just in a way of gathering from below to above. We want to express how it's gathering from above to below. So that's the idea of Torah. Torah is something that came from above to below, line 5. The idea of Torah is the drawing down from above to below. Like it says, behold, my word is like fire. That's the words of Hashem that's beyond measure and boundary. So how do we see that the words of Hashem has this beyond boundary, beyond limitation, beyond division type of thing? For this reason, the Chazal say, whoever is involved in the study of the laws of the bringing the carbon oil sacrifice, it's ki'ilu hikrev oil. It's considered as if he brought the oil sacrifice. Now we know that bringing a carbon oil, doing the mitzvah of carbon oil, has many different conditions. Yet the Torah study of oil, which is as if he did the carbon oil, doesn't have those conditions. It says, even though the person is outside of Eretz Yisrael, he's studying the laws of oil. And he's studying the laws of oil by night. And he's not a kohen that's studying the laws of oil. So, seemingly, if he were to actually bring a carbon oil outside of Eretz Yisrael, it wouldn't be a carbon oil. If he would bring it by night, even in the base of Mikdash, it wouldn't be a carbon oil. If he would bring it even by day, but he's not a kohen, it wouldn't have the din of a carbon oil. There's so many conditions in the carbon oil. Yet, when a person is learning the carbon oil, he has no limitations because Torah is unlimited, it's unbounded. Because Torah is beyond measure and boundary and beyond divisions. So we see this unity that Torah has. So by Moshe Rabbeinu gathering the Eden and teaching them Torah and directing them and being an inspiration that in the future generations, every Shabbos, they should come and learn Torah together. So that is a Vayakhel, a gathering, a unity that comes from above to below, because the Torah is from above to below. It's something that Hashem spoke to us, came from above to below, and it's a matter of unity beyond the limitations even of mitzvahs. So now the Rebbe says, but we need to preface something before the Torah to be able to attain this. Line 12. So there should be able to be this drawing down of Torah. So at least there has to initially be the raising up of davening. Like we know that davening is a ladder standing on the ground, and its head, the top of the ladder, reaches the heavens. So tefillah is about a ladder going up towards Hashem. Like it's known concerning, there was a certain Amoida that said that my davening was close to my bed, meaning as soon as I got up, I davened. I didn't learn Torah beforehand, because to be able to draw down the Torah from above, down here, before that, we need to reach there with the elevation of tefillah. So that's what he's saying in Vayakil. These are the two concepts in Vayakil. First, there has to be the Vayakil from below to above. How does that take place? I did tefillah through davening, like we said before. And afterwards, Vayakil then there is the Vayakil from above to below. Through Torah. And now we're going to see the Vayakil that's to be found in davening, that's from above to below, because we're going to show it how this is so in the Koiches HaNefesh, in the soul powers, where we need to gather together all the different soul powers in our davening. It says in line 3, Moshe, it's called Das Bnei Yisrael. Moshe gathered the entire congregation of the Bnei Yisrael. Hine betevas adas yesh shloisha pirush. In the word adas, there are three explanations, or it's not literal explanations, obviously, but deeper meanings given to it. One is you play around with the letters and you flip it around from adas, you turn it into das, from chokmah bina das, knowledge. Another thing that adas is related to, edus, testimony, witnesses. Then finally, the literal meaning, ve'eda, and congregation. It says, inyan adas, what's the idea of das? It was like it says in the pasuk, das, know the God of your father. That this is from the expression of a bond. From like Adam Yodas Chava, like it says, the Adam knew Chava, it means he bonded with her. Until they became one flesh. What does it mean? In Vicha, there's a bond with Hashem. How does a person bond with Hashem? Through Das. Like the Rebbe says in Tanya, that when a person invests and inserts his mind and his thought strongly in meditating on the greatness of the Ein Sof, so then he bonds with Hashem. So now he explains an interesting thing. Since in the level of Das, since it's after all, it's one of the powers of the soul, therefore, since it's one of the powers of the soul, it's possible to have a descent. It's possible to go down to something that is not in a positive thing. So since there's a potential for descent, so you need to have in davening, you are gathering it together. You are not letting it descend into worldly things, and instead you are immersing it and investing it and staking it out into the bond with Hashem. Line 11. Afterwards comes the explanation adas from the word testimony or witnesses. You know that testimony, witnesses in halacha cannot be fewer than two. Only two can make up an edus. Spiritually, what are the two things that have to do with edus? Shem shtei hamidus chesed gvura. These are the two attributes of kindness and severity in imshachim me'inyan ad hadas that they derive from the level of a person's bond with Hashem. He comes to have a love and awe of Hashem, like we'll soon explain. The first explanation of adas from the word das, that you have chesed gvura come out from the level of das. So the second meaning of adas from the word edus comes from the first meaning from the word das, because chesed gvura descends from das. Ki adas nechlak chesed gvura, because das divides and into chesed gvura. What does that mean in our avodah, vinyoni ba'avodah, and the idea behind this in the service of Hashem? Through investing his thought in the greatness of the Ein Sof. Through that, a person comes to loving Hashem and having awe of Hashem, like we explained in Tanya right away in chapter 3. And as a result of the love of Hashem and as a result of his awe of Hashem, the Kayim Kol Mitzvahs Asay, the love brings him to fulfill all the positive commands. And the fear and the awe brings him that he's scared to transgress his will. Like explained in Tanya, that love is the root for the 248 positive commandments. And awe of Hashem is the root for the 365 negative commandments. So from the adas, from adas, you're coming to adas from the word edus, ava v'yira, which brings the mitzvahs. From this comes down the even lower, the explanation of adas from the word edom, that a congregation is no fewer than 10. That's why we know that you cannot say certain things without a congregation. You need to have 10 people to do so, to be able to make a minyan. And he says on the top of page Yud, why is that so? Because 10 is the perfect number. 10 includes in it all the numbers, and afterwards it's only repeated. So in other words, if you have a number 386, so you're only taking 100 times the number 3, 10 times the number 8, and once the number 6. It's nothing new in the number 386 that's not found in the original 10 numbers, because 10 is perfection and completion. It contains everything. What does that mean spiritually? What is the idea of a congregation spiritually? A congregation made up of 10 spiritually. It's drawn down and permeates. It permeates all your heart and all your soul in all the 10 soul powers. That's why it's 10, the perfect number. 10 is the congregation, which is also symbolized by the 10 gera, which make up the half a shekel, the 10 soul powers. The garment also permeates with also the 3 garments of the soul of thought, speech, and deed. That's what it means that Moshe gathered and collected the Kol Adas B'nei Yisrael, all the 3 levels of Adas, both the first level of Das, then the second level of testimony, which witnesses are 2 Chesed Gvura, and finally the last level, which is congregation, which is the idea of the number 10, Eser Kodesh HaNefesh, Paul La'inyan Vayakel. He affected the idea of gathering and collecting. So now the Rebbe is going to connect this back to the idea of Machzas HaShekel. Oizdal. The general idea of Vayakel is also connected with the half a shekel. Because the 2 half shekels is referring to the Jewish people and Hashem. We are a half a shekel, and Hashem is the other half of our shekel. Is a medrash, like it's brought down in the medrash, that one of the descriptions that in Shir Hashirim Hashem calls the Yidden is Tamasi, my completion, to Oibasi, my twin, Sheknesses Yisrael, Hitoimasi Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu, is the one that corresponds and completes Hashem. Like the Mizrich Magid explains on the pasuk about the 2 silver trumpets. So he says the word Chatzoitzrois could be divided into the word meaning half forms. These are 2 half forms, like you have 2 halves of a whole. It's like pieces of jewelry, I think, that you could separate it and have like 2 necklaces that will have 2 halves, and only when you put it together, it's a whole necklace. The same thing, Kaviyachol, the Yid and Hashem are 2 halves of an entire form. It's referring to the supernal man, in other words, Hashem, and the person, the man down here below. Each one of them is only a half a form, a half a picture. This means the person down here below, the human being, is only a half a form. And also the supernal man, Hashem Kiviyachol, is not a complete form as well. But when they cleave and they join together, they become a whole form. That's why the Yidden are called the beloved of Hashem. What does the beloved have to do? Because a husband and wife are also that way. The dogmas similar to a husband and wife. As long as each one is separate. Hareu plag gufa, the Zohar refers to them as being a half a body. The husband without the wife is a half a body. The wife without the husband is a half a body. And through them joining, they become an entire body, a complete body, a whole body. So that's why the Yidden are called Rayosoi, the wife of Hashem, because we are completed by Hashem, but also Kaviyachol, we complete Hashem. That's the idea of the unity of the 2 half a shekel. Shneim yachad nasim shekel shalom. Both of them together become a complete shekel. So the truth is, we have now two meanings of the two halves of shekel. Earlier in the Maimer, we referred to what the Alter Rebbe says, that a half a shekel is the revealed part of the neshama down here in the body, and the other half of the shekel is the part of the neshama that's the head of the neshama above. But here we're explaining the two halves of the shekel. One half is the neshama of the yid down here, and the other half is Hashem. And this is connected with Vayakil. Why? Because we need to collect them and join them. Line 26, V'zeu Gama Inyan, Vayakil Moshe's Kol Adas Bnei Yisrael. That's also the idea that Moshe gathered the whole Adas Bnei Yisrael, the whole congregation of Bnei Yisrael, Shemakil as an Itzoitzis to Yisrael, that he collects and gathers the sparks of the Yidden. In other words, the neshamas of all the Yidden, Umiyachad Oisam Im Shorsham. And Moshe Rabbeinu joins them with their root, Kaniskaleel, meaning he joins them with Hashem. So he joins them with Hashem above. So that's the idea of Vayakil that's connected with Kisisa. Concerning this, it says, when you will raise up the heads of the Bnei Yisrael, in the Vayakil, the idea of collecting and gathering, and again, concerning all the levels that were mentioned earlier, all the different levels of adas. That's from the word das, knowledge, from the word testimony, meaning chesed and gvura, and from the word congregation, which is going on the 10 kochs nefesh. How does that all happen? Why are they all joined and united? It's as a result of the head of the neshama. So therefore, we need to unite with the head, and then we could cause the true union of all these parts. Through the preface and introduction, that you will raise up the head, that we raise up the neshamas to the level of the head. We cause the unity, the joining, the collecting, the gathering of the level of das, like we said, the word adas, the word das, knowledge. That his level of knowledge become joined with the Ein Sof, with the infinite light of Hashem. Is also causing a joining in the two attributes of kindness and severity. That is the idea of the testimony, adas, and the word testimony, which involves two witnesses. That's why it's Chesed Gvur, called Eser Kochs HaNefesh, and all the 10 soul powers. We're causing a unity and collection and gathering as well. That's the idea of a congregation, adas, and Eidan, and the congregation is only with 10. Moshe is called Adas Bnei Yisrael. That's what it means. Moshe collected and gathered all the Adas Bnei Yisrael. Since after the sin of the golden calf became the scattering of the sparks, like we mentioned before, the scattering of the neshamas. Moshe affected the neshamas; they should have the unity. Until he drew this unity down here below. This is the command of the making of the Mishkan. The idea of the Mishkan is that Hashem will dwell amongst them, and not just in the Mishkan, but within each and every Yid. By day being our Mishkan, through the building of the Mishkan within each and every one of us. We merit to the building of third base of Mikdash, the Mikdash Ikri Mishkan, that the Mikdash is called the Mishkan. So therefore, where it says Vasili Mikdash, Mikdash, it's referring to the Mishkan, Agula Mitzvah Shlema, the Mashiach came in the true and complete redemption through Mashiach.